Support for the podcast comes from Open Minds Psychological with locations in Plymouth Meeting and Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. Open Minds works with individuals to support needs around emotional regulation, anxiety, depression, trauma, and coping skill development. They also offer psychological evaluations to assess developmental, cognitive, academic, and behavioral needs, high-risk assessment, as well as career counseling. Evidence-informed group therapy options are offered periodically throughout the year around topics such as anxiety awareness and skill building, social skill development, ADHD and executive function coaching, as well as parent support groups. Learn more at openmindpsychological.com. Hello and welcome back to Parenting Stuff I Wish I Knew Sooner and Want You to Know Now. I'm your host, Erica Desper, founder of the Center for Confident Parenting, and a mom who seemed to learn everything I needed to know the hard way. My guest today is Jamie, a mom who's here to tell us about her parenting journey and what she's learned along the way. Jamie, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for being willing to share your story. Right? And for some of us, it never feels easy. So you have the honor of being the first non-professional parent that I'm having on. I'm sure you're professional at something, but you are here solely as a parent with no services to tout. And that's important to me because I was saying to you before we started to hit record, I don't want this to come across as always an expert podcast of like, we're here to tell you how to handle this. I do really want to keep it very real of like, hey, we are all parents. Even if we're an expert in something, it does not mean that we're doing it any better than you are. We're probably doing it worse because it's hard when it's your own kids. And I really want to keep it real about how hard this can be and what hard is looking like for people. And also the fact that, hard things don't stay hard forever. There is no manual. That is so, so true. So thank you for being part of that. And thank you for being the first. So we don't know you, right? So first things first, just tell us a little bit about you and your family, and then we'll get to my hard questions. Mm. Mm. Right. And that must be a lot for you. And I'm sorry to hear about your mom's passing. Yeah. Mm. And did you feel that way? Like, were you already thinking that before you met him, or was it as you got to see who he was that you were like, oh, this is Jeans? Okay, got it. Yeah, which must be, that's hard because that's outside of our control. I know one of the things I struggle with my son, who is also 14, that's one thing we have in common, is I'm learning a lot about intergenerational trauma and how it affects the DNA. And I just, I have no control over, what my grandparents did or the people before them. And I just wonder how much that, sort of got passed down. I think it's one of those things we like beat ourselves up with, but there's no perfect answer and we'll never really know. And in the end, it probably doesn't matter, but that is a mom thing to do, right? We worry. Yep. So in the early years of parenting your son, and I assume you weren't by yourself from the very beginning, or you were? Okay. Okay. So in those early years, what was the most challenging thing about parenting then? Mm-hmm. Of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that brings up a great point. If I'm here to tell people things they may not know, moms, dads, caregivers, helpers, if a mom has a history of mental health, mood disorders or whatever, that already puts you at greater risk um, for the same thing or something sort of tied to it in the postpartum period. So I don't say that to like scare people, but just to inform, right? Of course. And if you had known, you probably still would have experienced the same thing, but the difference could have been getting a plan in place and some supports in place. Like if you have a mental health provider, you can reconnect with them or connect with them if you don't have one, before baby arrives. And that way you already have this lifeline. And maybe there's a plan for, helping hands around the house or a meal trainer, whatever. Which honestly, we all need that and deserve it. But if there's a risk for mental health issues, for sure. And then just to say how super, super common it is, and it is um, treatable and it doesn't last forever. So you do just definitely want to reach out either in advance if you know that it's likely for you or when it's happening. Right. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Okay. And then contrast that. So now life looks a little different. Your son is obviously in a different age range. You aren't with your partner anymore. You're not in your own home anymore. You're now taking care of dad and dog. So what's most challenging about parenting your son now? Mm. Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And do you want to share at all, like what behaviors you were able to help him overcome and how? Hmm. I hear you on that. Right? We've lost the ability to have snow days. Kids don't get to experience that. That's the biggest bummer I think that came out of COVID. I mean, if we put aside like loss of life, obviously, I'm being hyperbolic, but um yeah, right. That was the one thing I said. I never wanted to be my son's teacher and I never wanted to homeschool. And when COVID hit, we put him in a virtual program because the schools were like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Um, yeah. Oh, yes, he would, because that's what we're dealing with now. Right, right, right. Yeah, I mean, you got to pick your battles, right? Exactly. And it's isolated days for him, so I think it is no joke. And we hope to be out of it very, very soon, but that's a topic for another day. All right. So that's the COVID years. Mm, yep. Hmm. Hmm. Mm, mm, mhm. Right. Well, I think it depends how you're defining like what's good about it. It doesn't mean there's no bullying, unfortunately. Right. Like they could be great with their academic curriculum and the kids could be really cruel to each other. Hmm. Okay. Mm, mm, yeah. We need an alternative. It's another language. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Hmm. It's a school-based partial hospitalization. Right. Mhm. 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 Yep. Mhm. Right. Right. Okay. So that's still challenging now. I mean, I think that's a much more manageable challenge than suicidal and homicidal, obviously. At the risk of making this like incredibly emotional and deep, what? So you're a single mom. Your kid is in this critical place. What are you like? How did you get through that? Like, I know logistically how you got through it. You got him into a program, and great. I'm more asking like mentally, emotionally, like what did you say to yourself? How did you survive? That must have been crushing to watch. Mhm. Mm. Mhm. Yeah. Yep. This too shall pass, maybe? Mhm. Yeah. Mm. Did anyone doubt what you were did anyone say, like, "He's not in that bad a shape"? That's just you saying that. Mm. Mhm. Right. And where did you find your power and your voice to say, like, "And I'm doing it anyway. This is what he needs." Mhm. Right. Do you think you would be in this better position right now had you not reached out to an advocate? I know I didn't prep you for that question. Mhm. Because you may not have even heard of that explorations program. Mhm. Right. Because not only do they know more about the rules and the resources that are available and what he's entitled to, but it just takes a piece off of your emotional plate to go, like, I'm handing this to you. Please guide me because you have so much on your plate. Hmm. Yeah. That's definitely something I want everyone to hear and take under advisement. Hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of parents are told, "We're not seeing what you're seeing." I know I was, or, "He's good, he's quiet, he is smart, he gets good grades." But what they don't know is what that child or student is having to do in terms of managing themselves, masking, using up all their resources to navigate through that situation, which is why they collapse once they come back to us because they can and they don't have anything left in the tank. So, of course, we're the only ones seeing what's going on. So, yeah, if anyone's gut is pinging and they're being told, well, we don't see it across settings, that's not a we don't stop there, right? It's like yeah, you don't. And so here's what we're going to do. Maybe you need to come into this setting and see it. Maybe we need a neutral setting, whatever. Um, yep. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yep. Well, and that makes me wonder, Jamie. I know that there's some disagreement over, you mentioned ODD, and for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it stands for oppositional defiance disorder. I know there's some disagreement over whether that's even like a thing or whether it's something else that's being just sort of thrown into that bucket. I'm not a mental health professional, so I don't have an evidence-based opinion on that. But as a layperson hearing your story and hearing his progress and how he's performing now, I don't think that's something you outgrow with age. I think what it was is it was situational behavior. Like the behavior was the symptom of whatever the trigger was. And the trigger was that he was not adequately supported at school. And you were the only safe place where he could let that all out. Hmm. Which makes a lot more sense. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I just think it's a good observation because sometimes we go, oh, well, it's this. But like, okay, but what's causing that? Like what there's still more, like we need to get more curious. And I just want to take a second to say, like, good for you. I mean, if you haven't patted yourself on the back, if you don't have anybody to do that for you, you trusted your gut, you saw the risk factors, you reached out for help because you weren't informed enough to know what help would be, what the appropriate situation would be, and you got him in the right fit scenario, and now he's happy and you guys can be happy together and you're both safe. And I just think it's so beautiful, and we need back pats. Absolutely, and especially the single parenting with elder care on top of it. It's a lot. I just it's amazing what you've been able to navigate. um it's not. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So in all of this that you just described, are you like, do you make time for yourself? Is that a viable thing? And if you are able to, how do you make it happen? How do you spend that time? Hmm. Right. Right. But you did it, which is great. Are there smaller things that you can work into an average day? Hmm. Right. Goodness. Hmm. Right? It's not easy. Well, good. I'm glad you got the massage and maybe you can make a plan for whatever the next thing will be. And even if it's a little few and far between it, gives us something to look forward to, which is great. Okay, so let's shift a little bit. We talked a lot about challenges. We kept it super real. Thank you for being so candid. Um, Thinking back to those early years when it was so hard, what was the biggest joy that you had then? I'm sure there were some sprinkled in. They can be hard to see when everything feels rough. Right. Yeah. So that was an easy time to find the joy. And then what about now that you found your right, his right fit and your spot for the moment? That's good. Hmm. I think if you can head into the years with a very open communication like that, and it isn't everyone's style, it isn't possible. I just think you'll be able to navigate it. I mean, navigate it. They're still gonna, pull away as teenagers do and want to be independent and have privacy, but I just think it's a lot safer to be like, look, there's nothing that's off limits. You can tell me anything. I'm not gonna, as much as possible, overreact in the moment. I'm just gonna hear it and we'll deal with it. I'm hopeful. I mean, I'm not well into the teen years yet, but that's that's my plan. Right. 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 That's not the way to do it. Yep. Awesome. Wonderful. I hope so. So, looking back at what he has sort of taught you along the way, um, and I always say our kids teach us, no matter what we know, our kids teach us so much, even things we didn't want to know. What would you list as the biggest thing that he taught you on this journey? Mm. Hmm. That's beautiful. Right? Yeah. Awesome. And that's not easy. I mean, you can love someone and not like them in hard moments. And it's important to know the difference, I think. Or you can, I love you. I don't love the behavior that we're navigating right now. Um, and it's great to hear. Yeah, humans are so resilient. That's not to say it doesn't stink when hard things happen, but it's good to know that he did come through. He's on the other side and he is still himself and he's happy. Yeah, exactly. All right. I have two more questions for you. So, if a parent that's listening is maybe at the start of a similar journey or in the thick of it, the really, really hard part with mental health and dangerous, risky things, what do you wish someone could have said to you at that time that you would say to that parent now? Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. I love that. I love that. All right. Final question. What is one thing that you learned on this parenting journey that we haven't talked about yet that you wish you had known sooner and you want other parents to know now? I know, putting you to the test. Or if you really want to cheat, you can emphasize something we already talked about. Yeah. Mm. Hmm. Yeah. Do you think there were signs he was exhibiting with respect to what was going on at school that you would maybe notice now, having gone through that experience? Or do you think there was just no way to know what was happening? Do you think like the exploding when he came home, or was he withdrawing? Right. Right. And that was a change. Just to clarify, that was like a contrast. Like some kids are just always reserved, but you noticed this is different from before. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good to know. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Wonderful. I really hope this is helpful for somebody listening. It does take a village. We aren't alone. We're all kind of beating ourselves up for things we wish we had come to sooner. But all we can do is share what we've learned along the way and hope to, reach somebody else sooner. So, Jamie, thank you so much for joining me and being willing to share all of that. Congratulations on what you've achieved for your son. Give you sending you strength and I don't know, whatever else you need for everything that's on your plate right now. Me too. I hope so. All right, awesome. And listeners, I'll be back soon with more stuff that I and others wish we knew sooner. In the meantime, I'll leave you with my list of stuff that I learned the hardest way, actually similar to Jamie's list. Accept help when it's offered, ask for it when you need it and it isn't offered. You are the expert on your child, so trust your gut. And if you need to be the squeaky wheel. Thank you, everyone, for listening.